Mama was unhappy when I told her that I planned to live with Dad, and so was everyone else. No one really understood it, and I felt unable to say much about it. I also knew that living with Mama came with a lot of guilt and a lot of questions about why I didn't live with my mum or dad, and a lot of whispers from a lot of people to Mama that she just needed to take a break. That feeling of being a burden to Mama wasn't something I imagined. It came from a number of small cues, from the things she muttered under her breath, and from the weariness she wore like a dark piece of clothing. I didn't want that, so I chose what seemed the least bad option. In some ways, I loved living with Dad. His life was normal in precisely the way I'd always wanted mine to be. My stepmom worked part-time but was usually home. Dad came home from work around the same time each day. One of them made dinner each night, which we ate as a family. Before each meal, we'd say grace. On weeknights, we'd watch some family sitcom together. And Dad and Cheryl never screamed at each other. On my first weekend at Dad's house, my younger brother invited a friend to sleep over. I take it that's his stepbrother. He has a very confusing family. We fished in Dad's pond, fed horses and grilled steaks for dinner. That night we watched Indiana Jones until the early morning hours. There was no fighting, no adults hurling insults at one another, no glass china shattering angrily against the wall or floor. It was a boring evening, and it epitomised what attracted me to Dad's home. What I had never lost, though, was a sense of being on guard. When I moved in with my father, I'd known him for 2 years. I knew that he was a good man, a little quiet, a devout Christian from a very strict religious tradition. When we first reconnected, he made it clear that he didn't have care for my taste in classic rock, especially Led Zeppelin. He wasn't mean about it, that wasn't his style. And he didn't tell me I couldn't listen to my favourite bands. He just advised that I listen to Christian rock instead. I could never tell my dad that I played a nerdy collectible card game called Magic, because I feared he'd think the cards were satanic. After all, kids at the church youth group often spoke of magic and its evil influence on young Christians. And as most teenagers do, I had so many questions about my faith, whether it was compatible with modern science, for instance, or whether this or that denomination was correct on a particular doctrinal you can read that, can't you? Hang on. Correct on doctrinal it means Magic the Gathering. I doubt he would have gotten upset if I'd have asked these questions, but I never did because I didn't know how he'd respond. I didn't know whether he'd tell me I was a spawn of Satan and send me away. I didn't know how much of our new relationship was built on his sense that I was a good kid. I didn't know how he'd react if I listened to those Zeppelin CDs in his house with my younger siblings around. That not knowing gnawed at me to the point where I could no longer take it.